What's up, guys? This is TheKephas. What's up, guys? This is TheKephas, and if you happen to check out my previous video, then you learned that my life has been going through a lot of amazing changes. I've bought a house, I own a dog, and I've even become a father. So I've been away for a while. And while I've been away, some serious stuff has gone down at Blizzard. And if you know anything about this channel, then you know that Blizzard games are a pretty big part of this channel, specifically World of Warcraft, or at least they have been up until this point. So yeah, it's gotten pretty crazy. The state of California has gotten involved in a lawsuit about harassment that's been going on at Blizzard for a very long time. There's been a 2-year investigation. I'm sure you all know all about it. Everybody's been talking about it. And I've taken a little bit of time to think things through, really, and just really understand what's been going on. And at this point, there's really probably nothing that I'm going to say that hasn't already been said, but I still feel like I should make a video about it because I've been playing World of Warcraft for a very long time, and maybe I should just give my thoughts, I guess. Obviously, you know, when it comes to the details of the investigation and the horrors that have been going on at Blizzard, it's horrifying, isn't it? It's terrible that this stuff has been going on at that company. And I think it's also almost just as bad, if not worse in some ways, that there are people that knew that it was going on, that maybe weren't participating, maybe they were, we don't really know, but they didn't do anything to stop it. They didn't do anything to fix it or address the issue. And so women who have been working at Blizzard, so many women who have been working there have been getting harassed on a regular basis for years. And I think that's horrifying, isn't it? It's just terrible that that's the kind of stuff that's been going on. It's had sort of a, you know, protect the boys kind of culture. Sounds like a wrestling thing, doesn't it? Like if you've ever watched professional wrestling, it's how the locker room was, right? Protect the boys. Like they've protected each other and allowed this stuff to go on, and I find that despicable. You know, I don't know what it is that created this monster at Blizzard, that you have individuals that were getting away with this stuff for a very long time, and I think that's the worst thing, isn't it? Because, like, we know there are monsters out there. We know that there are horrible people, there are just garbage humans out there that are going to do bad stuff. But it's very, very unsettling and very frustrating that there are other people that maybe aren't engaging in the same behavior but aren't doing anything about it, especially when they have the power to do something about it. And there's that saying that the only way for evil to triumph is for good men to do nothing, right? So, you know, it's despicable. And I say that as someone who has been in situations before where I've seen similar behavior happening. I've seen women, sometimes random women, sometimes, you know, women that I know, sometimes women that I don't know, where they've been getting harassed, and I've stepped in and said something about it and shooed those people off. I mean, I'm not trying to brag. It happens. And I was raised that you look out for people that need help. And that isn't to say that all women are damsels and they need a man's help. It's nothing like that. It's just that when someone's obviously unsettled by someone else, and if you think you can step in and help that person out, then you do it. And then I've done that on multiple occasions, sometimes with a group of friends, sometimes by myself. I've also been in working conditions. I'll be completely candid here and say that even when I was working in church, there were similar issues with people that were in positions there that were doing things even in church, and I've had to step in and address those issues. Now, obviously at church you want to be very strict on people's moral character, and so you want to nip that stuff in the bud really quickly and address those issues, because you don't want that stuff to fester obviously in a church, but you don't want that stuff to fester anywhere. And it's not about a religious thing, it's about just human decency and a certain level of morality that people need to have and people need to maintain for the health of the environment. I mean, there's a reason why that we have morals. There's a reason why we have those convictions, isn't there? Because it's better for everyone that people act and conduct themselves in a certain way. And obviously, you know, that goes without saying. In this case, you know, there are certain stories in these investigations that are horrifying. And to know that people have been going through this for so long is terrible, isn't it? I mean, it really is. Like, It's just like it was on my mind when it first came out. It was on my mind for days. Like I was reading about it and watching other videos and just thinking about it. It's just like, man, this is terrible that a company that I've played their games for so long, and while I'm enjoying their games, this stuff is going on, and I think that's just awful. But this is kind of like the culmination of many problems that Blizzard has had. I'd say this is probably the worst one, but there's so many other issues that Blizzard has had. The Blitzchung thing and so many other areas where they have failed, on a moral level, which is funny because Blizzard has tried to paint themselves as this moral, morally sound company, when the only people that believe that are the absolute copium smoking shills that are fans of Blizzard. And I'm sorry, but that's the truth of the matter. I think that there has been a strong divide that's been growing for a while of people who participate in Blizzard games and people who have been just jumping on the Blizzard train and let themselves be taken over with this weird fandom. And that kind of brings me to my next point. When this happened, when all this kind of came out, I've seen a lot of people that I know, people that are content creators, that this has like devastated them. This has like rocked their world because they were such big Blizzard fans. And if you know anything about me, if you've watched any of my videos, you've probably heard me say a certain phrase several times. And it goes like this: I am a fan of video games. I'm not a fan of video game companies. I've never been more happy for that to be the case than I am right now. I've been playing Blizzard games for a very long time. I've been playing since Diablo 2, and I have never considered myself a fan of Blizzard. I'm a fan of their games. I'm a fan of Diablo. I'm a fan of Warcraft. I'm a fan of Overwatch. Just like with Nintendo. I've been playing Nintendo games since I was 4. I never have considered myself a fan of Nintendo. I like Mario. I like Zelda. I like Donkey Kong. I like Final Fantasy, but I'm not a fan of Square Enix. You see what I'm saying? That's the way I have always viewed myself, and the way I've always viewed these companies. They make products that I enjoy. I buy them, they get my money, and then I enjoy them. It's as simple as that. That's how it's always been. That's how it's always going to be. I'm never going to let myself get sucked in and become a fan of the company. Now, a company might build a good reputation by making consistently good products, and I might be more inclined to buy from them in the future, but that's as far as it goes. It's purely a consumer producer relationship, a type of business relationship, as it should be with anyone else. It would literally be like you being a fan of Walmart. That's strange. It's the same thing. It's like, it's so bizarre that people become fans of companies. Like, you don't hear about people being fans of Paramount that much. I mean, maybe there are people that are fans of Disney, but I think more often than not, people just enjoy the movies and they like the collection of movies. The same with like the Marvel movies, that kind of stuff. And that's how it should be. The producers, like obviously the people that work there, you should never dehumanize them, you should never harass them. You should remember that the people working at these companies are still people for sure, but the entity itself, the company as a collective, who is only exists to get money from you, and that's fine because that's what it's a company, that's what it's supposed to do. But if you allow yourself to become a fan of that company and try to act as if they are, altruistic and they're only there to make you happy, well, you're believing in a delusion. That's not the case. And when you're not a fan of the company and they do things that you don't like, it's easier for you to notice those things and it's easier for you to criticize them rather than insulating them from any criticism because you're such a fan. And that's honestly a problem that Blizzard has had. A problem surrounding Blizzard for a while is they've been so insulated from their own hype, their own weird reputation, and this weird cult-like following that not only a lot of their employees have been involved in, and also other content creators and a lot of fans. It's a very strange thing surrounding Blizzard, and that seems to have been shattered for the most part with this happening. I think that is one minor good thing. It's obviously not worth the horrors that have gone on, but it is sort of a positive, is that finally, this company that has been so revered for so long has been, outed as one of the worst places to work. No surprise, no surprise at all. Not saying that, this is probably an industry-wide problem, probably a problem that transcends the gaming industry. of women and other people getting harassed, because there are bad people out there, and they are, if people aren't put in check, then this stuff is going to be happening and it's going to fester. So there has to be, more of a faster, more of an appropriate reaction. Obviously, people need to be, there needs to be a level of, due process, a proper investigation, so that people aren't falsely accused, because that can happen. Look at the guy who did TheKephas' voice, who Blizzard was very quickly to remove from Burning Crusade and replace with a different actor. They removed him. They, cut ties with Swifty and never did fix those issues, even though they were false accusations. But then here they are, involved in all this horrible stuff. They're so hypocritical. It's crazy how hypocritical they are. It's like anything they can do to save face. And that's the thing about it. People talk, we talk all the time about how companies virtue signal. And then you have people that are trying to buy into that stuff, that, like, oh, it's just virtue signaling, you're just an alt-right person or whatever. It's like, no, dude, people see it for what it is. It's not that, like, the things that they're doing are good or bad. I mean, obviously, inclusion's a good thing, diversity's a good thing, and all those types of things are great, but people see through it. People know what it is, that this is not something that they truly value. The Every Voice Matters quote that's on their building is BS, and people can see right through it. People can see, you put that quote up there and then you do what you do, the Blitzchung, and people see right through that stuff. It's just all a bunch of virtue signaling. The rainbows and all that stuff, I hate to tell people, it's all fine and good, and it's fine as long as you understand that it's nothing more than marketing. It's nothing more than PR and virtue signaling and trying to build an image that is appropriate for the times. And if things were to ever, heaven forbid, flip-flop, then companies would flip-flop as well. And I think it's important for people to know that. It's fine that those things exist, that there's those types of merchandise exist, but it's important for people to know why they exist. It's just how it is. It's kind of like the breast cancer thing, when you have companies that are selling pink, and then you find out that they're not, the money that they're raising isn't actually going to the cause that much. It's important to know that kind of stuff, even if you do believe in the cause. Anyway, that's a side rant. But I talk about all this stuff. Like I said, there's so much that's already been said. Obviously, thoughts and prayers are with the victims, and hopefully there's some form of justice to be served at Blizzard. It's hard to say. It's looking like they are, protecting themselves as best they can, and it's hard to know if this issue will ever get fixed, in the long run, and what will actually happen, which is a shame. It's hard to say. But I would say that, this whole thing, for me, my opinion of Blizzard has already been soured. It can't really get any lower than it already is, and that's the truth. And honestly, like I said, I've never really been a fan of Blizzard. I've praised them for their products in the past, but and we'll talk about WoW in a future video, because I think that deserves a video on its own. But I have not been happy with Blizzard products for a while. I think the last decent thing they've done is Overwatch, and now that, they're pissing that away by not releasing anything for it. No lore updates, no new content, nothing. Diablo, the Diablo 3 fiasco, the disrespect to the previous version of the game, Diablo 2, which is considered to be one of the best games of all time, while releasing a very crappy arcade mode version of Diablo. A lot of people like Diablo. I think Reaper of Souls was an improvement, obviously. That was a little bit better. And then, of course, there's StarCraft, which it's just been forgotten about entirely. Hearthstone and Heroes of the Storm have kind of slipped. I don't know what they're doing. I think Hearthstone's still getting content, but it's a card game. And then there's WoW. And like I said, we'll spend an entire video talking about that. But it's been rough waters for a long time. And I think this stuff has a little bit to do with that. I think that obviously morale has been low. If you're getting harassed at work on the regular, you're probably having a hard time doing your job. That's probably true. I don't think that's entirely it, because I don't know how much of this stuff has affected the dev team. And the writing team, I don't know. It's hard to say. I think there are other issues as to why a lot of these games are bad. I think it's primarily that, someone said it, maybe it was Bellular, I don't know. Someone said this is what happens when a bunch of rock stars or wannabe rock stars hire a bunch of fanboys, And I think that's probably what it is. Number one, the rock star thing, these developers who have been treated like rock stars and view themselves as rock stars, that's been a problem for a while. They bought into their own hype, right? And then people who have been fans, who have loved their games and found Blizzard to be this dream job, they get hired on. And now you have a bunch of people that A, aren't qualified, or B, are taking a job that isn't paying them well enough and isn't providing enough for them, and expecting them to work long hours because Blizzard takes advantage of people that look up and see them as this amazing company, and it's a dream job. And that's also been an issue. Just the general mistreatment and just the environment at Blizzard. I think it's fostered this horrible culture, and it's created a company that is producing worse games, which is crazy considering it's Blizzard and they used to create some of the best games. So there is a connection there. I don't think that's entirely it, but I do think that that probably has something to do with it. The same people that have allowed, harassment to go on are also the same people that are managing the creation of these games. And it's just, it's like whenever you get a new manager, like say you have for example, my local Arby's used to be awesome. I used to eat there like twice a week. And then they got new management, and literally immediately there was a difference in the food quality. And it started to suck, and you started to see less people go there. And they started to build a reputation around town that they're crappy Arby's now, and people quit going to eat there. And then they changed management again, and they got a little bit better, and people started going back there again because the food tasted good again. It's that's what it's like. A lot of times, why does this restaurant suck now? It used to be good. Probably because they got a shift in management. Honestly, 9 times out of 10, that's the result. If you have a crappy manager or people that aren't running the business very well, then they're going to hire crappy employees, and they're not going to do a good job, and they're not going to oversee anything, and then the product's going to suffer, and then the people that go buy the product are getting ripped off. So I think that's pretty much that sums up Blizzard right now. It's just a crappy company ran by crappy people. Sorry to say. And when I say crappy people, maybe they're not all bad people, like as humans. Don't want to dehumanize them, but crappy employees, crappy at their job. Obviously, that has a lot to do with it. And that's why their products have been suffering for so long. I'm a little bit excited for Diablo 2, the remake for Diablo 2, because that is actually being created by a company, by Vicarious Visions, who has remade a lot of games. They remade the Tony Hawk Pro Skater 1 and 2 remasters, which is a really awesome game. One of my favorite games from last year. And they're that company who has kind of merged in with Blizzard now. They're the ones that are making the Diablo 2 remake. So I do have a lot of hope for that remake. Like I said, I may not be a fan of the company, but I do recognize good work. So I'm a little bit hopeful, even though there seems to be an issue with the promised peer-to-peer feature that was in Diablo 2. Looks like they're abandoning that, so it's hard to say what's actually going to come out. But I'm still going to pick up the Diablo 2 remake, because Diablo 2 is still one of my favorite games of all time. And that kind of brings me into the last thing, and that's the boycotts, the witch hunting, all this stuff. Are you going to continue to play Blizzard games, that kind of thing? My playing of their games is dependent entirely on the quality of the product. That's how I am. I'm not much of a boycott person. And I guess if you want to get into the morality of that, there are people that are saying if you support the game, then you're supporting this treatment of the employees. Well, the employees are still working there, aren't they? They're still needing to get paid, which means that they need products to sell. So you could also argue that I'm supporting the people that are working there that want things to get better. I mean, there's a lot of different ways that you can paint this. Personally, I don't really get morality involved with my purchases unless I'm buying something that is immoral, right? That's just how I view things. I mean, there's a lot of ways that you can paint it. At the end of the day, I'm a customer. If I see a product I want, I buy the product. There are so many companies that are involved in things that are questionable, and if I boycott one company, I pretty much have to boycott them all. That's just how I see it. If you feel like you need to boycott Blizzard, you do you. That's your thing. If you don't, then don't feel bad about it, and don't let other people pressure you. I think that's one of the biggest problems, is that people are being outed And people are being criticized for not boycotting and jumping on, because if you don't think like they think, then obviously you are a problem as well. And so there's a lot of mudslinging, a lot of witch hunting, a lot of, just nastiness. It's funny that, people are responding to a harassment issue by harassing people. I think that's obviously hypocritical. It's just as hypocritical as Blizzard is themselves. And I have nothing for those people. I'm going to do what I want to do. I don't answer to anybody else for what games I want to play. It's as simple as that. So yeah, I'm still going to play Overwatch. I'm going to play it with my wife almost every day. I want to play Diablo 2. As for World of Warcraft, well, we'll talk about that in a future video. So that's kind of and that's pretty much everything. I think the last thing that I want to talk about when it comes to Blizzard is, aside from all this horrible stuff that's happening, these horrible harassment issues and just this horrible culture that's developed, I think the last thing that's kind of sticking with me and why I'm more than happy to distance myself from Blizzard in general, aside from just, casually enjoying, a good game that they have made or they might make in the future, is customer relations, community relations. I think that Blizzard has a terrible relationship with their own community, and it's funny because we were talking about the fandom earlier. I've never understood the fandom because I feel like Blizzard has always had a level of disdain towards their customers. I've been a fan of Blizzard games since Diablo 2. I played Diablo 2 when I was a teenager, and I remember back then there was this weird adversarial relationship that the players had with Blizzard, and Blizzard was kind of like just known to be kind of dicks. People loved the game, but people didn't like Blizzard back then, at least in my circle, and the people in general that I knew, and where I would go on the internet to talk about Diablo 2. And they've always kind of been that way, just had this weird adversarial relationship with their own fans. And I've seen that through WoW over the years. I've seen that from all kinds of different WoW developers. I mean, I hate to out people, but I think of Ghostcrawler, who, granted, they would deal with some pretty nasty fans a lot on the forums. But people like Ghostcrawler, he would get in the mud with people. Holinka was pretty bad. There's the whole infamous J. Allen Brack, you think you do but you don't. Just that kind of treatment. There's just a lot of lack of respect from Blizzard towards their fans in a lot of interactions, and it's also shown in their games and WoW. We'll talk about it, but where they don't seem to respect their fans. The way they take feedback is pretty lousy. And then just, I think the most recent one, the last straw for me when it comes to Blizzard and why I'm just like, top to bottom, this company kind of sucks, and screw Blizzard and a lot of the people that work there. I think that Twitter is bad for most people, and I think that there's a reason why I'm not on Twitter anymore. I just don't like Twitter because a lot of bad stuff and a lot of just bad takes happen on there, and it's just not. People get on there and they're in their emotions and they let what they really think out. Sometimes you don't want to do that, but so there have been a couple of instances on Twitter where I've been disturbed because it's not directly related to the harassment stuff. It's not obviously as bad as the harassment stuff, but I guess it is a little bit. So when this all came out and people were, Blizzard they let it out that, they're going to stop developing the game for a little bit, and people didn't really know how long they meant. Like, are they going to take a few days to just kind of collect themselves and reevaluate things and kind of, take a break, or are they going to take like a break until this investigation is resolved, right? And so when people heard that, they kind of got upset because you got to remember, WoW is a subscription-based game. I don't know why it still is a subscription-based game. I don't know, but I don't know why subscription-based games still exist personally, but it is just like Final Fantasy is. But WoW, people pay a subscription, people buy all this stuff, and then they hear they're not going to be working on the game for a little bit. And that kind of upsets people because, a lot of people, like, in most working places, if you go through something in life, if you lose a loved one, if you whatever, then you might get a little break. But generally speaking, a lot of places you don't even get much of anything. You have to get back to work. And so it's just kind of a way that people think, or at least in America, that, yeah, things happen in life, but you have to keep working. The wheel has to keep turning, right? Maybe that's not the best way to think, but it's certainly a reasonable position for people to have if you're going to continue to charge people money. So unless you want to reimburse the money and then take a break, then you better keep working. And I think that's a reasonable take. People are paying all this money and then they're not getting the product that they are paying for. People pay a subscription because they expect new content, free content, quote unquote free, to come in, and that makes people feel better about paying the subscription. So people were questioning this, and maybe some people took it a little bit too far. But then a Blizzard developer gets on Twitter and says, all of you customers who are out there, and you're questioning us about taking a break, you're putting the game over human decency, and you're part of the problem. Essentially saying that people who want Blizzard to keep developing the game are part of the problem of people in Blizzard harassing people, right? That's a horrible take. The person eventually deleted that tweet, but it still existed, and it did not sit well with me. It didn't sit well with a lot of people because, look, none of the fans, none of the customers are part of that problem. None of us did that. Okay? No one is part of that problem. And for them to take that approach, for him to take that approach and say that to fans is despicable. We're not responsible for their company to be harassed. Okay? And when you start saying that you're putting, the game over human decency because you care about the game, well, what if you're a developer that saw this stuff happening and you didn't say anything because you didn't want to lose your job? Are you putting your job over human decency? Because you could argue you can go find another job. You can go, it's true. They get a kind of a pass for this because no one wants to lose their job. It's just understandable. But are you putting that over human decency? You actually saw it going on. Hey, customers didn't even know this stuff was going on until recently. So it's just a bad take. You know what I mean? It just is. And suddenly, this has been going on for years. People have been working there, and all of a sudden, people want to get on their high horses. People want to start acting like they're superior. They suddenly have this moral awakening. It doesn't sit well with me. I don't like it. I don't know. It just doesn't sit right with me. And then, there's another issue where a lot of people are, people like Asmongold are going to play Final Fantasy a lot. A lot of people are going to play Final Fantasy, including myself. But I've been playing Final Fantasy for over a year and a half, so I'm not on the bandwagon. I've been enjoying the game for a while. I just want to throw that out there. And so people in the Final Fantasy community are like, well, not all of them. Most people are cool with it. But a lot of people don't like Asmongold for whatever reason, and there are people that were like, we need to run him out of this game. We need to get on there and just run him off because we don't want his kind in this community, which is, again, very hypocritical. But there was someone on Twitter that was trying to say that and organize something, and a WoW dev was liking those tweets and subtweeting, which is crazy to think that there are people that work on, people that work at Blizzard that are endorsing someone being harassed because they don't like that person, they don't like that content creator. Blizzard does not like Asmongold, but the idea that they would endorse that type of behavior is baffling to me. So, I don't have a lot of faith in Blizzard between the harassment, the people that allow the harassment, the people that mistreat the customers, and just the way they handle their products. I have no love for Blizzard at all. I think that they are failing, and I think they need a wake-up call from top to bottom. Beyond the harassment stuff. That's not the only issue. It's obviously the most important issue. But Blizzard has had problems for a very long time. At this point, I don't know how anybody could consider themselves to be a fan of Blizzard. But, like I said, to each their own. You do you. I am not a fan of Blizzard. I might continue to play their games, but I am happy to be distant from the company and just enjoy the games I enjoy. If they make good products, I'll play them. If they make bad products, I'm not going to play them anymore. Simple as that. So, yeah, it's a long video. I had a lot to say. I didn't want to touch on the specifics of the harassment case because, A, it's been talked about to death, and I just wanted to give my general thoughts on the company. I don't like Blizzard. I haven't for a very long time. If you do, that's fine. You do you. But I think it's a crappy company. I think it's probably one of the worst gaming companies that exists right now. The worst. One of the worst. Easily. And I think they need a serious wake-up call if they want to relive their glory days. So, yeah. Other than that, like that's my thoughts. You know, as far as the developers that are, you know, trying to, you know, just come at fans and be nasty and toxic and hypocritical, you know, you guys can go to hell. I mean, that's how I feel about it. Fix your company and then come at us. You know, make a good product for a change. You know, yeah, it's pretty awful. But yeah, those are my thoughts, guys. I'd love to hear what you guys think about all this stuff in the comments below. You know, I may not have everything right. I may not be right about everything, but that's how I feel right now. I'm obviously a little bit upset because I do care about their IPs. You know, their games have been some of the most important games in my life as a gamer. So I want to see those games continue. I really could care less about the company. If they have to sell the games to another company that will do them right, that's fine with me. But yeah, I want to see those IPs continue. I don't want to see them go down the path of like Metal Gear, you know. But yeah, anyways, you guys, those are my thoughts. Let me know what you guys think about it in the comments below, and I will see you guys on the next one. We'll probably be talking about World of Warcraft. An entire video needs to be going to World of Warcraft, so we'll see about that. Otherwise, I will see you guys on the next one. Thank you for watching this video. If you enjoyed it, let me know by clicking that like button. And feel free to share it with your friends so they can enjoy it as well. And if you'd like to see more videos, you can subscribe to the channel and click on the bell icon to be notified as soon as new videos are posted. You can also follow me on Facebook, and if you'd like, you can support my work on Patreon. Links to all that stuff can be found in the description below. This is TheKephas. Until next time.